May I come in?
Please come.
Good afternoon,
Please
sir.
sit down, Abhinav. You're from Jharkhand, eh?
Yes, sir.
Why is it called Jharkhand?
So there are two meanings to that name. Chhar also means bushes, and Jharkhand is supposed to be very rich in natural forests.
Also, it means jungles and all, no? Jharkhand.
It means jungles and also means gold.
Do you know the old name of Jharkhand?
It has been called
During the
Vananchal.
Mughal time?
Not very sure, sir. It has been called Vananchal at time.
No, Kukara. Kukara is the old name of. Do you know during Mahabharata time also there was a name?
No, sir.
Okay, I will tell you Kirkland.
Okay.
During the Mahabharata also it was known as that. Okay, anyway. Now, what is unique about Jharkhand? One or two things you can tell me.
So Jharkhand has a very is supposed to be the mineral capital of India because there are substantial amount of resources. It's the largest resource of manganese, copper, bauxite. It's also second to third largest of producer of coal. Apart from that, sir, it is also significant in the sense that 28 to 29% of its population is tribal. And since the bifurcation of Jharkhand from Bihar, almost most of the chief ministers have been a tribal of the tribal region.
Just tell me about one tribe and their, the way they live or the festivals they observe. Something you can tell me?
So Santhal tribes that habitate the Santhal Parganas, that is one of the division of Jharkhand, and it has been prominent from very beginnings of the 18th century. They were also the main tribes who revolted against British government, and the major festivals they observe is Jatra, Sarna, and they hold some areas as sacred. These are sacred groves, and they are also preserved to a large extent, sir.
Okay. You did management, I think that was the last, I think you studied from Indian Institute of Management, and I think your subject was finance.
Yes, sir.
And you passed out in 2019?
Yes, sir.
Yes. And since 2019, what have you been doing?
So for the first couple of years I was working, and since then,
You
sir,
are working with?
Fitch Ratings, it's a credit rating company, sir. Credit rating company.
Okay. No, why did you pursue that career, and why do you want to join the civil services?
Yes, sir. So the prime reason was that I have always been to an extent interested in social sciences. I did my intermediate as well as my bachelor's in social sciences. I was interested in public policy. Most of the subjects I took in even in MBA were either directed towards Indian economy or towards finance. And thereafter I worked in India Ratings, and I mostly monitored the Indian companies in pharma and healthcare sector. So there too there was an inclination towards Indian economy as such. And sir, apart from that, the very sense of civil services doing service to the people of the country, and that is what motivates me towards civil services.
Okay. Indian Foreign Service is your first preference?
Yes, sir.
What takes you to be a very good diplomat? How can you become a good diplomat? Or what, according to you, what are the attributes of a good diplomat?
So I think the first attribute would be patience, because in foreign policy, foreign relations, things moves very slowly. Secondly, sir, another attribute would be the capacity to listen to the other person. And sir, of also great importance is how well you observe, how well you are informed, because otherwise you might lose out on certain information, intelligence that is pertinent to your country's foreign policy there, sir.
Okay. Just two terms, they come to my mind straight away, which are used in the diplomatic parlance. When you say persona non grata, what do you mean by that? Persona non grata.
Insignificant person. Insignificant or?
A person who is not desirable or acceptable.
Okay.
It is used in the context of two countries. Say we declare a diplomat, say a Pakistani diplomat here in Delhi, as persona non grata. That means he is not desirable his presence is not required in India, he has to leave the country. So it's a persona non grata. Okay, one more term I would like to check. Extraterritorial jurisdiction.
So in certain cases, for example, in the case UNCITRL, that is cross-border insolvency cases, so there are some laws of a particular country that are also applicable to jurisdictions that are outside the country's territory. So that would be extra.
No, it's not that. I'll just tell you. Extraterritorial jurisdiction means, say the premises of the US Embassy in Delhi.
Yes, yes.
They are located in Chanakyapuri, okay?
Yes.
Now the embassy premises, they are in India, no doubt.
Yes.
They are in India. But for all practical purposes, for the purpose of, for legal purpose, it is considered to have extraterritorial jurisdiction, as if they are situated in the United States.
Yes.
I don't know whether you read about it or not. One person was hiding in an embassy in London.
I didn't.
Okay.
Edward Snowden.
Yeah, read about it. Very interesting. How he took an asylum inside an embassy,
Yes.
and the police could not enter, you know. So like that, because of extraterritorial jurisdiction. Okay. Now we'll come to another area of international diplomacy, because you are interested in that. Now, what happened to the Arab Spring? Have you heard of Arab Spring?
Yes, sir.
What happened to that?
So, sir, various countries in the Middle East, starting from 2008, 2009, like Libya, Tunisia, even Jordan to an extent, they went through a democratic protests which led to change in the governments that persisted for a long time in some countries like Egypt, where the government of Abdel al-Sisi has persisted, whereas in Libya there is still a fight between 2 or 3 blocks. In some countries like Tunisia, it was quelled. Similarly, it is said that it did not lead to a democratic government later on, but it was supposed to do that.
Okay. Now, you know, of late you may have found that our relations with UAE and Saudi Arabia are increasing tremendously. You know, there is a significant growth in our relationship with these two countries. Why is it happening, you think?
So Saudi Arabia has been an ally of USA, and with coming up of China, Saudi Arabia has also allied with India, which is supposed to be a swing state between China and the other countries, China and USA, that is. With UAE, our relationships have been strong, based, of course, on the factor of USA, but also because more than, I think, 50% of their individuals residing in UAE are from Indian origin, and a lot of our exports to Africa go through UAE, and we also import a very significant amount of oil from UAE. So, also
what about investments? What about personnel working in the countries?
Yes, sir. With Saudi Arabia also, we send a lot of semi-skilled laborers, and UAE we send a lot of skilled laborers.
And investments?
Investments, I'm not sure of the quantum, but a certain amount of remittances do come from those countries because of the personnel working there.
They are also investing in a big way.
Yes, I'm not aware of the quantum.
Achha, okay, read about it. Interesting. Yes. Now tell me, I mean, Lavan, this will be my last question to you. No, the American economy is not doing so well, but the dollar is strong. How is it that?
So post the gold that was supposed to be the global currency, it has been the US dollar that has been the global currency. So whenever the global economy is supposed to be entering recession, the demand of US dollar goes up. So post the Russia-Ukraine war, there has been an upsurge in the demand of US dollar, and so that is the reason it's going up. But the economy of US is not doing well. There is a certain amount of inflation there. The rates are very high there. So.
Thank you, Abhinav. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Abhinav. Can a candidate who has contested the election as an independent candidate be the Chief Minister of a state?
If he is supported, he can be the Chief Minister.
If he musters the support of?
Of the majority of the, whatever the majority is, of the bigger parties.
Bigger parties? Does it have any concern with the bigger parties or small parties? Or can we just say that if he musters the support of 50%
yes, sir.
MLAs?
50% MLAs, yes, sir.
Yeah. So any example related with this?
Jatin Ram Manji in Bihar, I think. I'm not very sure about it. But
Anyway, it relates with your state only, and Chief Minister has remained for about 2.5 years, and that is recorded in Guinness Book. Who was he? From your state. You are from Jharkhand.
Madhu Kodas.
Mr. Madhu Koda. Mr. Mr. Madhu Koda. So now you can recall. Okay. What was the controversy in Giridih district of your state that happened, say, about 1.5 months back? Giridih district.
So is it related to the Parasnath temples?
Yeah. So what exactly that was?
So the state government had declared Parasnath as a tourist site, and this was contested by the Jain saints and Jain religious groups. And thereafter also, when it was declared not to be so, and said that a particular parameter, no non-veg will be consumed, it was again contested by the indigenous tribes, because they said that there is a particular place where they do sacrifice animals.
So what happened subsequently?
So I think the second part is still going on, but the first part of the protest by the Jain community was registered, and the promise was made that no non-veg will be consumed in that area.
Okay, so you have studied economics and you have done MBA finance, huh?
Yes.
You might be very well aware of Punjab National Bank fraud. Are you? Punjab National Bank
Nirav
fraud.
Modi, Mehul Choksi fraud.
Yeah. Are you aware of that? So, which were the two important reasons related with that? Because of that scam was there.
So, sir, in the jewelry sector, there's a huge working capital requirement, and there are letter of undertakings given by the banks with respect to export or import of the commodities. And it was here that the inventory was inflated, and almost 10,000 crores, upwards of 10,000 crores was taken as a guarantee from the Punjab National Bank, and that was done through fraudulent means, and that was the scam, and then the individuals fled.
Okay, two more reasons related with this which were very important were misuse of SWIFT code.
Yes.
So, what is that SWIFT code? And number two, that ICI did not exercise its function properly. So, can you elaborate on this?
So second, ICI.
ICAI, Chartered Accountant
Yes.
वाला जो होता है ना?
Yes.
ICAI, Institute of Chartered Accountant of India. So that did not exercise its function properly. So number one is misuse of SWIFT. So what is SWIFT? Is it an acronym? And if yes, then it stands for?
The SWIFT is the acronym. It's a worldwide use. It's intra-fund transfer, that is bank transfer.
Yeah, that is there. But what is the full form? Society for?
I can't recall, sir, exactly.
Worldwide interbanking financial
transmissions or something. I can't recall exactly.
Telecommunication. T stands for telecommunication. Anyway, and second reason was that ICI did not exercise its function properly. Now my question here is that you might have read about the Act, Fugitive Economic Offenders Act. So what do you mean by fugitive economic offender? That came into force afterwards.
Yes.
Huh? So fugitive economic offender, whom we call fugitive economic offender. What is the definition under the Act?
As far as I can recall, sir, it is a bar of 100 crore rupees.
100 crore rupees, number one.
And if they have
At least 100 rupees crore.
At least.
And number two?
They should have been asked to appear before the court.
No, he has fled.
He has
Fugitive
left.
economic
Yes.
offender. Only two things. He has committed an offence amounting to rupees
100 crore rupees. And he
100
has
crores
fled.
or more. And number two, he has fled away. So why do these economic offender prefer to go to the Caribbean countries?
Because we don't have extradition agreements with those countries, I believe.
Okay. Now, related with number two, that ICI did not exercise its function properly. So my question here is that an amendment was made in the Companies Act to take care of this, and an independent authority was created. So under which section of the Companies Act amendment was made, and which authority was created for this?
National NFRA was created.
NFRA. So what is the full form of NFRA?
National Financial Reporting Authorities.
National Financial Reporting Authority. Under which section of the Companies Act?
Not very sure about that. Not very sure about which sections.
Okay, now one more question related with Nepal. So can you analyze our relations with Nepal, say past during 10 years or so, and from now onwards in another 5 years? What is the possibility?
So for the last 10 years, with the coming up of China, Nepal has been trying to play the Chinese card with India, the China card with India, and this has been observed even late when there was an issue with the Kalapani issue, the Kalapani Limpia Dhura issue, where they asserted that a particular section of geography, territory belonged to them. And sir, also there was an issue in 2015 with respect to Madheshis. Madheshis are the minorities there, and they were agitating, and India blockaded Nepal because of that agitation in 2015, which the Nepal government didn't take too lightly.
Okay, who is the Prime Minister now in Nepal?
Pushpa Kamal Dhamal.
Pushpa Kamal Dhamal, nahi, Pushpa Kamal Dahal Prachand.
Prachand, sir. Sorry, sir.
And prior to him, who was there? He is pro-China or pro-India?
He is pro-China, sir.
Pushpa Kamal Dahal Prachand.
Prachand.
So he is pro-China.
Yes.
Okay, and prior to him, who was there?
Sher Singh Dev. Sir Bahadur Dev. Sorry, sir.
He was pro-India or pro-China?
He was pro-India, sir.
And prior to him?
KP Oli, I think.
KP Sharma Ole. Theek, you are right. Why are you so reluctant? KP Sharma Ole. So now Pushpa Kamal Dahal Prachand.
Yes.
For how long he will hold the Prime Ministership? As per the agreement between the different parties,
I think it is a
ruling parties.
50-50.
50-50, good enough. Thank you.
Thanks.
Abhinav, you seem to be a very bright student. Just after your BA, you got into MBA also. And before that, in BA, you did finance, economics, psychology, international relations. That too also from IIM Indore?
So it was an integrated course.
Integrated course.
BA plus MBA.
Okay, it was for 4
5
years?
years.
5
5
years. Integrated course, okay. And ultimately you got the degree in finance?
MBA in finance. It's a general management degree, sir.
Okay. For a company to be successful, a project report is there. How would you analyze whether that project is viable or not?
A project, sir.
It is an industrial project.
Yes.
What are the things you would like to look into
As from the
in that project report?
From the finance perspective, some of the ratios are important. For example, if it is a project, we usually look at net present value of that project. Second important factor is the internal rate of return of that project. And apart from that, depending upon how it has been funded, it has been debt or equity, depending on that, we will also analyze the flows to the debt, flows to the equity, and how it is better than other projects in hand. So that is the financial.
What should be the IRR for a good project?
Internal rate of return should be greater than whatever the risk-free rate is, or whatever the risk-free rate plus the risk premium is.
Okay. And what is generally the preferred ratio for debt equity?
Generally depends, sir, upon the sectors. For example, if it is an infra-heavy sector, then by default the debt will be higher. It will be around 2 to 3x debt to equity. But for a company, example, pharma company, for an IT company, where these companies are supposed to take debt, it should be lower. It's 0.2, 0.1. So depending upon the sectors, it depends.
What are the different things that are counted when we calculate the GDP of a state or of a country?
So there are various methods to calculate GDP. One of the method is basis the calculation of the various sectors, so the services sector, manufacturing sector, or the agriculture sector, and there's a GDP based on the production that is.
So basically, how many sectors are there?
3 sectors: primary, secondary, and tertiary.
So which economy is supposed to be the best in proportion of, while considering the proportion of these three sectors?
So the economies, developed countries have a very high proportion of tertiary, that is services, and the developing countries tend to have a higher proportion in the secondary sector, that is manufacturing plus mining.
And underdeveloped?
Underdeveloped countries will have a higher primary sector. So.
Primary sector. Okay. What else? If you have to suggest to the government to reduce unemployment rate, what would be your suggestions?
So in the short term, if the economy is entering recession, we would suggest to print more money to increase the demand. For the long term, solution would be to increase the proportion of manufacturing sector in the economy, because that tends to be labor heavy, and that tends to suck labor out of agriculture sector, which in India is said to provide a lot of disguised unemployment. So once labor moves from agriculture sector to manufacturing sector, there would be a downturn in the unemployment rates.
In 1947 or 49, India and China were almost the same level, economic development and GDP and all, almost the same. But in last 75 years, there has been a lot of difference. What are the reasons? China's GDP is many times that of
Yes.
India.
Yes. So I think so, till 1980s also the GDP of India per capita was ahead of China, but partly because of Deng Xiaoping's, that is in 1978, he opened up China. So that led to a lot of manufacturing shifting from the Western countries to the territory of China. India opened up only post 1990s. So that gap of 10 years was one of the reasons that has led to this fact that we are almost 20% of their GDP right now, as an absolute number, sir. And secondly, sir, other reason would be the possibility in China of very fast turnaround of projects. Any project, the lead time is very low, whereas in India we have to go through a lot of clearances, and that has also led to the NPA crisis in the last 4-5 years that lasted because of cost overruns, because of overruns in project clearances.
Why is this so?
So because we exist in a democracy, whereas in democracy there are a lot of rules to be followed, and that leads to a little slag in
So
execution.
that leads to me another question. Whether China's model is better or our model is better. Because China has grown many times than us. They are better off today. Standard of living is better, their per capita income is better, their GDP is far more. So which system is better?
So it has been has been a dispute between several theorists. Amartya Sen said that even though some
I am
countries,
not asking Amartya Sen's views. I am asking views of Abhinav.
yes. So in my opinion, sir, democracy has a value that can't be said to be that can't be monetized.
Even at the cost of being far less developed.
So we have also seen that a lot less famines have happened in India because of free press compared to China, where a lot of individuals died in famines or in droughts in China. So that should also be taken into account while making this judgment.
Thank you.
We know your subject is PSIR. Eh?
Yes, sir.
What is the constitutional history, say, from East India Company to 1947?
So the acts,
Constitutional history acts different in different stages, how it has evolved.
so the first of all, we came with Regulating Act 1974 because there were a lot of issues in 1774 because there were a lot of issues with the Bengal governance, 12 system there. So thereafter, in 1984, 1784 Pitts Act came. In 1791, the first Chartered Act came there. Thereafter, in 1811, in 1833, in 1831, subsequently the acts came in 31, 18, 51, 58, 61, 92, 1909, 1919. So
What happened in 1861? There was a major change.
yes, sir. So because of the first, what is called as the First War of Independence, British government decided to make the system more central, more unitary, and that led to. Can I take a second, sir?
Yes, yes.
So some of the major changes were that Secretary of State came in UK,
East India Company, the power was taken by
the British government, sir.
first major change.
And then Secretary of State was appointed by the British
Then
government.
administrative reforms. What were the major administrative reforms?
So I can't recall exactly. I can't recall exactly, sir.
Then come on, move forward.
Other reforms.
Then 1919 Act.
1999, the Chelmsford Montague reforms.
What was that act?
So it came on the backdrop of sustained movement, and that led to a greater devolution of powers to the state governments. And there was diarchy in the state government, in the provincial legislature, where the governor headed, but a lot of ministries were headed by the individuals who were elected. But this was not reflected in the unitary government, or the central government. And a lot of the individuals elected in the central government were elected indirectly through the state governments. And sir, apart from that, these are the major ones, sir.
During British time, the administration was that some states were there and they were directly under the control of the Britishers, and some were the Raja, Maharaja and other things. So what was the system basically? How will you say which were the states, major states at that time?
Major states were United Provinces, Bengal, Orissa. In
How many
1947.
states were there?
14 states at the time of independence. And there were 565.
11 or 14?
14 states and some directly governed territories. And 565 roughly princely states were there. So there are bifurcated between India and Pakistan. So those states, sir, the system was more in the line of subsidiary alliance, where the military was headed by the British government, whereas the internal affairs were to be managed by the local princes.
Nowadays, some people are saying that our constitution should be rewritten. It should be after 75 years. So, lot many changes, social changes, economical changes, and it has taken place. Do you agree with this one? I say it is totally outdated.
So I think our constitutional assembly designed it to be very flexible, to an extent flexible. It was not very rigid, and therefore it has stood the test of time. And in my opinion, shouldn't be rewritten. There can be some amendments here and there, but even they can be under the purview of our constitution itself. For example, if we ask for a UCC Uniform Civil Code, even our constitution grants for that, or asks the states to take an underwear to go for a UCC, for example, sir. So it shouldn't be rewritten, sir. It can be done within the existing structure of the constitution, sir.
You studied in Indore, and Indore is one of the cleanest cities of the country. So what are the reasons? How they have done it?
What, sir?
You have studied in Indore,
Yes, sir.
and Indore is #1 cleanest city of the country.
Yes.
And on the side of the Indore, Devas is there, that is not so clean. So what are the various reasons which you have observed in Indore that it has become one of the cleanest cities of the country for the last so many years?
5 years consecutive.
5 years. What step they have taken?
So steps have been in various ways. For example, they have focused on solid waste management. There has been regular pickup of waste from the houses, and people have even at times agitated if the waste bins have, the waste trucks have not come, or the waste collecting trucks have not come. Apart from that, they've also focused on sewage treatment, on other such factors, which has led to the rank being higher for a very substantial number of times.
Okay, thank you.
You can wait outside for a minute. We'll call you in. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. May I come in?
Come, Abhinav.
Is it your first chance or please be seated?
This is my first attempt, sir.
First chance.
Yes.
Acha, in UPSC, this is first chance, not interview, otherwise also
Yes,
first
yes,
chance.
yes.
Great.
No, you are an excellent candidate. And when is your interview?
So not scheduled yet, sir.
Not scheduled, so it will be sometime in April also.
Yes.
So you have some time. We'll just give you a few suggestions,
Yes.
and you can work on them.
Yes. We can-
And you can probably get the you can write down if you want. First, read more about your state.
Yes.
I just wanted to check your historical knowledge a little. That's why I asked you about the old name and all that. During the Mahabharata time also it was called something.
Yes.
And then also I think Maoist problem, they may ask you. I think it's a problem, no? In your
Yes.
state now. So be prepared.
It is in 9 states.
And since I hope you will wear a suit for your interview.
Yes, yes.
Okay. And since Indian Foreign Service is your number one preference, there will be possibly more questions on international affairs.
Yes.
So a few areas I have kind of earmarked for you. One is simple, like this contours of our foreign policy. There is a nuanced change in our foreign policy. You can always read about it. Either you can go to the Minister of External Affairs website, look at the speech of our External Affairs Minister. Also you can see he comes on television also. Discussions are there sometimes on our foreign policy. You can watch them and always make notes. One magazine maybe you are reading, I don't know, Economist, which is published from London. Maybe you can check that online for some of the very good articles on that. Then one magazine which I used to like and I still available, I am told, and people read it, although it has got a little leftist leaning, Economic and Political Weekly.
Okay, sir.
Very good magazine. Then budget also, I think there may be a question or two on the budget.
Yes.
So budget, I hope you are reading an economic newspaper,
Yes.
either Mint or Economic Times. That would give you a good perspective. A few other issues I had in mind. One is, I think, the Russia-Ukraine war. Like India stand on the Russia-Ukraine war and what is happening now. G20 summit will be held in India.
Yes.
So, and many related events are taking place in India. So there will be a question on G20. Quad, we are a member, as you know.
Yes, sir.
So there will be a question on Quad. And anything related to climate change, by the way. Nowadays that is the topic, climate change.
Yes.
So there may be questions on that. And immediate neighborhood,
Yes.
Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, anything, like Pakistan, as you know, recently they had a blast in the mosque
Yes.
in Peshawar, and now IMF was there, the IMF team was there, they have gone back. They have not given the loan so far, they're saying we'll go back to Washington and let them know. So all that is happening, and your subject is also your optional subject, PSIR, that is
Yes.
Political Science and Interrelations. Some basic questions may be asked.
Yes.
So whatever notes you are reading, just brush them up. Some of the basic concepts, even some political philosophers, people would talk about. So starting from like Plato, Aristotle, Rousseau, Hobbes, Locke, Machiavelli, just a line each or two about these political philosophers, Karl Marx, Lenin. I think those will help you a lot.
Thanks.
And if you have any questions for us, please ask.
So, my speaking pace was.
You are a little fast. You are a little fast, but that's okay. Your natural style.
लेकिन इसमें change नहीं हो सकता, इसलिए don't worry about it.
Don't try to change it. It's okay. The way you speak is fine. I mean, you have a command of your language, you speak well, you articulate well. That's a very, I mean, a plus point for you.
Thanks.
And related with that, NFRA, the Companies Act 132 section 1 was added.
Okay, sir.
And that is Sher Bahadur Duba, जिसको आपको याद नहीं आ रहा था ना नाम. अच्छा, one thing I would like to suggest, though you are a very good candidate, there is no doubt about it. But don't answer the question about which you don't know. It is better to say no. क्या उसका इम्प्लीकेशन होता है? जैसे मैंने पूछा वही कि क्या इंडिपेंडेंट कैंडिडेट हो सकता है सीएम. आपने कहा जीतन राम मांझी. इसका मतलब ये है कि आप जीतन राम मांझी के बारे में भी नहीं जानते हैं और वहाँ का तो जानते ही नहीं कि कौन थे. तो जीतन राम मांझी की भी छोटी सी पार्टी थी और जब वो थे नीतीश कुमार जी ने तो उनके बाद फिर वो जीतन राम मांझी कुछ दिनों रहे. ठीक है, लेकिन उनकी पार्टी थी. तो उससे ऐसा होता है कि गलत आंसर देना बिल्कुल ठीक नहीं है. बहुत अच्छे कैंडिडेट हैं आप, मैं दोबारा से कह रहा हूँ, बहुत अच्छे हैं. एक दो क्वेश्चन का आंसर नहीं बताएंगे तो कोई फ़र्क नहीं पड़ेगा, लेकिन गलत आंसर का फ़र्क पड़ेगा. इन प्रीलिम 1/3 मार्क इज डिडक्टेड. इन मेन 0 is given if it is absolutely wrong, but here in minus many more times than the prelim.
Yes.
बहुत अच्छे कैंडिडेट हैं, लेकिन इस बात को जरूर ध्यान रखना.
Sure. Sure.
Thank you. Wish you all the best.
Thank you.
All the very best. I think you will make it.
Thank you.
We'll see your name.
Thanks.